Hi folks, my name is Kieran. Thanks for joining me. Today we're going to be talking about things you can do to get more out of your study sessions as an engineering student. Now, studying in general is typically seen as a laborious task, probably because we know that we need to do it in order to do well in our exams, and exams themselves have negative connotations attached to them. Because I've never met anybody that wants to do an exam unless they want to, just get it out of the way with or have it done, So regardless of why we're studying, it would just be nice just to have, just to make it a little bit more enjoyable. Just a little bit. That's what we're going to focus on today. Now I'm going to share bits of advice on studying that I've learned as an engineering graduate and as someone who has relearned a lot of the contents that they were exposed to at university. But before I do, I want to explain something that changed my outlook towards studying. What I've found is that studying to memorize and learn something, to pass an exam with it, is not enjoyable. Yet studying to be able to understand something is enjoyable. And though they could be seen as the same thing, the difference is that when you understand something, you're able to talk about it in conversation, you're able to hold your own in a conversation. And that's what made me realise that I didn't understand something. I pictured myself down at the pub talking to a mate of mine and trying to explain the topic to them. And if I couldn't string together some sentences that, gave meaning to the topic or explained the topic, then I knew that I didn't understand it. And I feel that that was the key, because humbling myself enough to admit that I didn't know it, and using this sort of test to know that I didn't know it, made it easier to actually start studying in the first place, because, you go in knowing you don't know it. So it's clear that there's only room to grow. And then when you come out of that, and then picture yourself talking about it again, it feels great knowing that you could probably hold your own in the conversation, stringing a couple of sentences together that actually make sense about the topic. And that's a good feeling. That's an enjoyable feeling. Now that we have that governing thought in our minds, let's move on to the tips. Tip 1. Give yourself enough time to be able to take your time. I can't stress this enough, because if you don't have enough time in your study session, you're going to want to rush through things. You're going to accept things at their surface level. And that's okay, but you're bordering on cramming at that stage. And you're not actually understanding what it is you're looking at. You need to give yourself enough time to take your time, because you've admitted that you don't know it. You've admitted that you don't understand it. Then choosing a small part of whatever it is, whatever the topic is you're looking at, focusing on that and giving yourself a good amount of time to be able to struggle through it, because if you don't, then you will end up taking a lot of things at surface level, and you're back to square one again. Tip number 2, read the whole chapter. I fell into this trap an awful lot at university, where I was focused so much on just getting the questions done on the worksheet that if I ever needed any help from a textbook, I would go to a textbook and I would just find a worked example that matched whatever it is I was looking at, and essentially just matched them up. Learned through method and rote learning, and remembered whatever equations and whatever sort of things that I needed to do to get the answer. And that just doesn't bode well for understanding. Instead, what I do now is I at least read the subchapter that worked example is in. And if there's things that I don't understand throughout that, then I'll find whatever it is I need to read to understand those parts of that chapter, of that subchapter. Doing it like that will make sure that actually you're building understanding and you're building connections in your brain, as opposed to just getting the method right and rote learning. And you might think that you don't have the time to do that kind of studying at university, especially in an engineering degree. And I get it. I certainly didn't feel that I had that time to do it at all. You know, it's incredibly time intensive. But from experience, I can guarantee that the amount of time that I spent head scratching and relearning stuff later on in the degree, because I didn't spend the time actually understanding it when I needed to, you know, you're going to basically save so much more time if you dedicate time to it and read the chapter now as opposed to having to relearn stuff later on in your degree. Tip number 3. There is no shame in going back to the basics. I wish I had thought like this at university, because it was too easy for me to convince myself that I didn't need to relearn something or go back and understand something that I had already been exposed to either in A-level or GCSE or something like that. You know, because I felt that I either already knew it or felt that I should know it, you know, and at that point dedicating time to that felt bad, you know, it felt like a waste of time, essentially. But there is no shame in going back and understanding whatever that is. Because if you never understood it properly in the first place, building on that understanding is almost futile. In terms of actually being able to call it understanding, you know, it's futile. In this case, ignorance is certainly not bliss. And if you genuinely don't feel that you have enough time to go back and spend it on learning the basics of whatever it is you need to understand, then make a note of it. Make a note of it that you need to get to it at some point or another in the future. Tip number 4. When taking notes or working through any worksheets or problems, talk to your future self. What I mean by this is that I can guarantee you're not always going to be on the same wavelength that you once were when you were in the zone during that study session. And you'll come back to your notes and pick them up and just be asking anybody else, like, what is this? What the hell is this? Who wrote this? Did you write this? No? It was me? Are you sure? Do you have to like hold it in a weird orientation to just sort of decipher what the hell I was once on about? Ugh! Yeah, I've been through that quite a lot. That brought back a lot of memories as well. So do your future self a favour and write to them. Explain what your thoughts were when you were working this out, you know? Explain the specific moment. Like if you get a eureka moment, you're like, oh, that's what it means. Write that down. Write exactly your thoughts down. Like the whole paragraph if you need to, you know? Don't just rely on just the maths. Write down your thoughts and feelings of like why you finally understood it. And then later on when you come back to it, your future self will thank you. Absolutely. So thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video and got something out of it. If you liked the video, then do us a favor and leave it a like, and you can subscribe to the channel if you want to stick around and see some more of my face in some other videos, if you want. Thank you very much, guys. I will see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.